faces right now because I'm looking at a presentation. But I know you're here and I know you're beautiful, and I'm so excited that we get to talk today about our 2027 policy platform and our upcoming legislative action team in district meetings. You'll notice today that I'm sporting a green star, courtesy of my almost 6-year-old. She hosted a face painting workshop right before I got online. And she said, I made it green for the Sierra Club. So, as a person that manages our brand, I'm very proud that she knows to keep it green. I'm joined tonight by my fellow staff members, Shane Johnson and Cyrus Reed. They'll be helping me work through all of this awesome information that we want to share. Please, this is a collaborative space. So, if you have questions, definitely raise your hand or put them in the chat, and we'll have plenty of places where we'll be asking to hear from you too. Quick walkthrough of our agenda. This is the opening and icebreaker. Then we're going to talk about what we've been working on, our legislative policy forum, the legislative action team policy priorities discussion. So first we'll talk about what the Sierra Club Lone Star chapter is looking to focus on in the 2027 legislative session. And then we're going to break it down and ask, what do you, our most involved volunteers, really want to be working on in the 2027 legislative session? Then we'll talk about accountability in district meetings, how we take our policy platform and priorities and bring those in front of legislators to actually get stuff done that benefits Texans and our environment. Then we're going to prepare for our next legislative action team call, which is going to, I think, ease some anxiety, some of that trepidation around like, how do I actually go and talk to my legislator? We're going to figure that out together. And I'm excited to share what we've got coming up in June. But first, something that's really been on my mind is the Texas Senate race. And on, I think it was Tuesday, Trump officially endorsed Paxton. So I just wanted to give everybody like 2 minutes to maybe share one word or an emoji in the chat that's like your initial reaction to that decision. Just, as a concerned citizen that's probably involved in some of these races. If anybody wants to come off mute and say their word, we can keep it family friendly too. I see Ugh and Yawn in the chat. Those are some pretty good reactions. Not surprising. Carol says, might be good for Tellerico, question mark. We will see. We will see. Good question, Cyrus. Maybe it could actually spur some folks to choose Tellerico. Cornyn Unbound. That's a little bit infamous, like a little, ooh, this helps the Dems, more corruption. Yeah, I think they're good. Like a little summary of what I'm seeing in the chat is kind of this like maybe a nervous sort of anticipation, excitement, a curiosity. What could this possibly mean? And also a little bit of like, uh, maybe it's not going to mean anything. Maybe it's just, more of what we've seen in the past. But hopefully, yes, Francis, I agree. Hopefully, Tellerico has better chance against Paxton. And I'm just saying that as Jordan Goodrich, the Texan, in my official capacity as a person. Thank y'all for participating, for playing. I hope it warmed up your typing fingers a little bit because now we're going to start talking about our work and the upcoming legislative session. So, Cyrus, could you please walk folks a little bit through this timeline and where we are and what we're looking at in the months ahead?
Yeah, somehow it's the end of May. I'm not sure how we got here, but just quickly, y'all remember that both the Lieutenant Governor of Texas and the Speaker, I believe it was in late March, released their interim charges. And hearings immediately started happening in April in different committees, and they've continued into May. And we now have seen some already scheduled for June and July. And for us, tonight we're going to present you with, let's call it a draft, policy pillars and priorities. We hope that we can, with your help, release those publicly next month. But the hearings will continue over the summer. And then in September, there'll actually be budget hearings for the different state agencies. The different state agencies will release their proposed budgets along with their exceptional item requests, and there'll be an opportunity for all of us to opine on those state budgets. So a lot happening in the months ahead. And of course, I forgot there's an election, right? Next Tuesday is a runoff election, so that's in there as well. Oh,
Definitely.
and
Thank you.
we're going to be drafting legislation, and we're hoping to encourage you all to start meeting with your legislators in July. So I forgot to add that.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. And what have you been up to? Clearly, you're already busy. I can
Well,
barely
I've
pin you
been
down
busy,
nowadays.
and I've heard that some of our volunteers have also been busy. So there have been three hearings this month that we've attended. In two cases, we gave public testimony as well as written testimony. In one case, there wasn't an opportunity to give public testimony, so we just turned in written testimony. All of our testimony is on our website. If you go to sierraclub.org/Texas and go to legislature under written testimony, we always post our written testimony. If it has any grammatical errors in it, that's my fault. That just means no one edited it. Um, but there was a hearing on distributed energy resources at the State Affairs on May 6th. There was an important discussion about desalination on May 11th, and a couple of our volunteers also spoke at that meeting. And then the House Committee on Culture, Recreation, and Tourism spoke about a lot of parks and wildlife issues, including Fund 9, which is the way we fund the wildlife part of Parks and Wildlife. So that was good. And then Evgeny and I met this week with in the House, the staff of the Natural Resources Committee. They deal mainly with water issues, and the Natural Resource Committee in the Senate, which actually deals more with oil and gas and TCQ issues. They have it sort of separated differently. But we had good meetings with those staff. We told them that we're working on the policy priorities and we'd come back with those policy priorities soon. And that's about it, I think.
Ooh, thank you. Anyone have any questions about these committee meetings? And I do want to echo Cyrus that thank y'all. So many of you submitted comments. Let us know that you followed our comment guides that we've provided, and I'm just super duper grateful y'all are getting involved already. Bob, I see your hand up.
Have they started hearings on data centers yet?
So, yes and no. In the State Affairs Committee, there was a hearing in April on data centers that we attended, and we did provide both written and some oral testimony. I think a number of other folks did as well, volunteers. Um, we're expecting, when we met with Natural Resources staff in the House, they said potentially, and this is a potential date, on June 26th, they may have a hearing in Austin, including on data centers and water use. And then we know on July 27th, the Senate Finance Committee is having hearing on tax incentives for data centers. And we expect a lot of people from around the state to show up and say, stop giving these tax incentives to data centers. And that's Joan Huffman's committee. But so there's been one hearing on it, but we expect others. Senate Business and Commerce is also meeting in June, but they have something on cryptocurrency, but I don't think they're looking directly at data centers yet, but they will at some point.
Good question, Bob.
The
Right.
date on that July hearing,
Say it again?
the date in July on the
July
tech.
27th. And we'll find it. I can't remember if it's 9 or 9:30 or 10, but it's in Austin. And the Senate Finance Committee, they have a number of charges, but one of the charges is to look at specifically this sales tax exemption, which has grown from about 1 billion a year that we're losing in revenue. But if these data centers keep developing, it'll be something like 3 billion a year of lost
Cyrus,
state.
yeah, what about the property tax abatements that are defunding public schools?
I mean, that's a good issue to bring up because data centers are also getting those abatements. I think the charge is actually more focused on the sales tax exemption, but it doesn't. I am positive that the many people who are going to show up in Austin will also talk about those tax abatements, and that I think that's a winning political issue to say Why give tax abatements to data centers that want to come here anyway, especially when the number of jobs they actually produce other than in construction is relatively small. So it's a good issue to bring up. Should I keep speaking?
Go for it.
Okay.
You're in the zone.
One of the joys of working for the Sierra Club, but also the difficulties is we work on lots of stuff. We're not just an organization that only works on electricity issues or like some of our friends in the traditional conservation only work on land and habitat issues, or like some of our friends in the Texas Living Waters group that we're a part of only work on water issues. We work on everything. So we put together these four, I'll call them platform pillars. They're really buckets of things we work on. The first one is all about, and we'll get into some more depth on all these, but clean, reliable, affordable energy. So it's really about the electric grid and, the resources that serve that grid and the amount of money we pay. Clean air, water, and healthy communities. That's really about protecting us from pollution, honestly. Protecting Texas lands, wildlife, and coasts. That's more about preserving our habitat and our farmland and our rangelands. And then sustainable water and climate resilience is really how are we going to meet our water needs in a sustainable way, and how are we going to make ourselves more resilient because climate change is already here. So those are the four big buckets or pillars, and then we have lots of details on each of those pillars. So clean, reliable, affordable energy for Texans. Um, we want the legislature, we want to work on it. We want the legislature to look at the increase in cost of electricity and of the transmission that all of us pay for because transmission costs are socialized within ERCOT. What regulations we have on data center in terms of their energy use, how they report their energy use, how they get their energy. We really want to focus on, I'll call it the small scale stuff. So the idea of balcony solar, can we make it easier for people to just plug solar in and use it? Demand response programs, distributed energy resources like solar and storage, but also payment assistance. Texas used to have a payment assistance program at the state level that went away a long time ago, but lots of people are struggling to pay their bills. Just general programs to reduce energy waste, so energy savings programs. Also, we know that there's going to be a tax. We already have seen it in these hearings. People attacking renewable energy, saying we got too much of it. We need to peg it back. But we also want responsible siting. We don't want a clear-cut forest to put solar panels, right? So we do want some responsible siting regulations. And basically, there's a lot of concern about these large transmission lines cutting through habitats, not a lot of public participation. So what are some reforms on transmission? So those are some of the things in that first bucket that we'd like to look at. And then did you, Jordan, do you want me to go through each one or stop? What do you want me to do?
No, I think you're doing great. Let's talk about each one, and honestly, the amount of detail that you're giving, I think, is helpful.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So the second big bucket is clean air, water, and healthy communities. This is really about community protection. We know that Texas is an industrial state. It develops fast, and our state agencies aren't always the best at prioritizing people over polluters, unfortunately. Um, we know there's a lot of deficiencies in our air monitoring system. Even though some say, the Houston area has more air monitors than anywhere in the US, we still know it's not enough to make sure we're seeing where pollution is affecting people. But certainly, even beyond Houston, in West Texas or other areas of Texas, we don't have a lot of air monitors. Um, we definitely are going to continue to prioritize water quality standards both for produced water, that's the oil and gas wastewater, seawater desalination discharge, and we want to do something about those nurdles, the little pre-production plastic that is getting in our fish and ultimately in us. PFAS, when Evgeny and I met with the Committee on Natural Resources, Senator Sparks, who's a very conservative guy, is concerned about PFAS, both in drinking water, but also as it's applied in fertilizer on land. But then there's a bunch of air pollution issues, methane, hydrogen sulfide, ethylene oxide pollution that we want to deal with. And then on the oil and gas side, Railroad Commission has really outdated rules on both the way they enforce rules, but also on financial assurance and orphan wells. So, and then finally, in terms of data centers, our big concern is all the backup generation resources that data centers are added, and that's usually old technology, which means data centers are coming out with a lot of air pollution. So, lot of things in that category, but those are some of the things we're thinking about focusing on. Um, I wouldn't say as Lone Star chapter we have prioritized a lot on Texas lands, but we do have some great volunteers who are really focused on this. And also we do play a role here. So a couple of years ago, we passed the Centennial Fund, which is the $1 billion for Texas parks. We want to make sure that continues to be used. And if there are any, small changes that are needed in that fund, like can it be used for not only purchase, but also development of those parks, things like that, that we want to look at. There's a big issue. Parks and Wildlife has on the park side now seems to have plenty of money. They don't have enough money on the wildlife side. So the legislature is going to be looking at how we fund the wildlife part of Parks and Wildlife. We want to be part of that effort. Private land conservation efforts. We know that 97% of the land in Texas is private. Well, we want to add to public lands. A lot of the efforts need to occur through private land conservation. So, do we need a state-funded land and water conservation fund or more money for conservation easements and land protection? Can that also be used to help us on flooding? Um, Beach access is going to continue. We're at the Supreme Court against Elon Musk and the GLO, trying to make sure that our beaches are still accessible to people and not to private corporations. So I think that's going to continue to be an issue. We've also put improvements in protection of mountain lions. My understanding from talking to Craig Nazer is that may be happening now at Parks and Wildlife. We may not need legislation. So that's sort of a maybe, but we put it in there because we know it's important to a lot of folks. And then the final bucket is water everywhere. Not only the data centers, their water use and making sure they're reporting it, but also we're either requiring or incentivizing them to use the best water conservation technology. We still have a lot of areas of the state that don't have access to drinking water and wastewater treatment. There's a program called the Economically Distressed Areas Program that hasn't been funded since 2019. We'd like to change that. There are issues with water rights and environmental flows. Can we free up some of the water rights that aren't being used to make sure that our rivers flow and eventually that flow gets into the bays and estuaries? Obviously, we've always emphasized water conservation reuse, and then really more on the climate resiliency around flood mitigation and prevention, which is a whole range of issues, everything from updating building codes to getting insurance discounts if you fortify your roof to funding for flood infrastructure, including nature-based solutions, and some county authority over things like impervious cover, which could also be important for things like data center development. That was a mouthful. But
Yeah.
yeah. So then the question is, and maybe this is for discussion, but like there's a lot of other issues out there that aren't listed there, right? Nuclear energy. Should we be banning data center development, heat pumps, electric cooperatives, concrete batch plant regulations, carbon capture, geothermal energy? Like I can name a lot more that aren't on those lists, which doesn't mean they won't come up and it doesn't mean we won't have an opinion, but we didn't put them in that initial list. So I don't know. Are you our facilitator, Jordan?
Yeah, I am. No, I think it's great questions to think about. I would encourage us right now to like have these in the back of our mind and do exactly what you said. It doesn't mean that we will not have opinions or positions on these issues, but I think in order to be effective, we need to really anchor in a few that feel right for our priorities and for our for our members and for what we can accomplish as a team right now. So awesome list. I see, Bob, you have your hand up. So real quick, what's your question before we get to the priority setting part?
On the water issues, if a data center agrees to do the closed loop water, is that enough?
So that's a good question. I mean, what we're having discussions with legislators. There's some legislators who may push the idea we need to restrict the water sources of data centers. So they shouldn't be using fresh water or potable groundwater that can be used for potable drinking. They should be using either wastewater from oil and gas or wastewater from municipal wastewater plants or reclaimed water in some way, as well as the closed loop technology. So both trying to get them to reduce water use, but also limit where that water is coming from so it doesn't impact, other needs that are out there. So those are some of the things that are being discussed, and whether you can require that or incentivize that, that's where it gets into the legislative arena. But we're certainly talking to folks about that, and we're working with Texas Living Waters and HARC, Houston Advanced Research Consortium, maybe, to
Center.
come, yeah, center, to come up with some policy priorities that should come out soon. That would be just focused on data centers and water.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cyrus, for that overview. That's a ton of information, and you're probably still chewing on it, barely headed towards digestion, but I'm hoping that something on those lists got you excited, whether there's a data center in your community and you're concerned about how fast they're popping up around Texas, or you've got family in Corpus that's facing a very severe water crisis, or you have kids or grandkids like me and you're concerned about the quality of the air that they breathe. If something has been on your mind or your heart and you're looking to work on that, now we want you to say what you're interested in working on as a legislative action team. So, this group of 20 something people right here, y'all have been with us. You are committed to the change that we're trying to create together. And we need you on the front lines and meeting with your legislators because Cyrus can only be in so many places at once. I think he's up for like seven. Um, but your legislators need to hear from constituents, and that's where you're going to have the most impact. So right now, we're going to not dip our toes in, we're going to dive in to the Sierra Club policy platform. And we're going to use these buckets that Cyrus described to pick your policy priorities. And we're going to do this by vote. So I'm going to start a poll, and I'll just need somebody to give me a thumbs up or raise their hand and let me know that you see it. Has it launched on your screen? Beautiful, thank you. There are 4 questions in this poll, each question representing one of the buckets in the Sierra Club's policy platform for 2027. Please select up to 3 choices in each bucket that represent what you want to work on in the 2027 session. And when I say work on, that means have a meeting with your legislator, make a phone call, a social media post, talk to your friends about it, continue coming to legislative action team meetings and sharing your experience. It's not whatever your capacity looks like and whatever you're interested in, we want you here, you belong here. So please take a minute to fill this out. I'm going to go on mute and read through it myself and do some reflecting on the things that um, I'm looking forward to talking about and the things that I'm carrying. And then we'll come all back together in about 5 minutes or so and go through the responses. Got a couple responses coming in so far. Thank you to everybody that's voted. I want to echo something that Cyrus said to me before we got on the call and also a little bit in the beginning. And just a reminder that this doesn't mean that these are the only things that you'll be working on, the only talking points that we'll send you. This is just a kind of a quick reaction to the policy platform and also just giving us some ideas to really like sink our teeth into over the next couple weeks, the last few months of the interim period before we start the session.
And Mel shared a great article by Beck Edwards, who I know pretty well. She works with Texas Impact. And I'd sort of forgotten about that bill that we worked on and passed the House last session, which is to say the main state agencies should be planning for extreme weather as part of their strategic kind of plan, and therefore looking at what resources they'll need for the next drought, wildfire, or flood, or whatever's coming down the pike. And we certainly support that legislation. So that would go in the climate resiliency bucket. So I'd sort of forgotten about that because it didn't go anywhere in the Senate, but thanks for sharing it.
A little bit over halfway there. Rob shared in the chat that because of the way that the poll is structured and because each question is required, you have to select something within each question. I encourage you to do that and just think about within each bucket what issue you're most excited about. And then ultimately, what we're going to do is look at each bucket and select an issue from there. So keep going. Everybody's doing great. There's a couple more folks that need to finish up their survey. And when we are all done, we will come back together. I know it's so hard to decide. I'm seeing in the chat that data centers are a priority. Beautiful. Thank you so much for the offer of collaboration. That's what we're here to do. We're at 5 minutes, so I'm going to give us about 30 more seconds if anybody wants to get in those last minute votes.
Yeah, and Jamie, I'll say we've had that big discussion internally, like, do we need to make one of our policy priorities just data centers? And the thinking is, I don't think there's going to be one bill on data centers. I think different committees are going to deal with different aspects of data centers. So it's kind of like within community protections, we need to look at air quality and water quality. Within electricity, we need to look at the cost of data centers. Within water, we need to look at water use. So it's almost like you have to separate data centers into multiple issues, but it is a huge issue.
Citing also
What did you just say? Sorry.
where they're located, citing.
Yeah, siting. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's kind of county authority. What authority do counties have or cities have over where they're located?
All right, I am going to close out this poll. Thank you, everybody who participated. I'm going to see if I can work some Zoom magic here. Let me see what I can do. Okay, so now that we have voted on the first, let's see, for now that we've voted on the issues within the policy form, I'm going to, in real time, fill in the legislative action team's policy priorities. So I'm going to share the results. Can everyone see the results from the policy priorities poll? Give me a thumbs up, somebody. Very nice. So first we'll talk about that bucket of clean, reliable, and affordable energy. And it looks like here, if we, at our poll results, 11 out of 14 responders said that data center regulations on energy use and reporting is what they're really looking forward to getting engaged on in the session. So this is not the only issue that we will be tied to in this bucket forever, but it is the issue that we're going to provide y'all with talking points on first, that we're going to train on how to talk about first, so that when we get y'all in with your legislators over the summer, you feel really confident in how you're talking about data center regulations on energy use and reporting. I know I'm amongst my people when this is like the super exciting thing to talk about. Next, we're going to clean air, water, and healthy communities. And 8 out of 14 folks said water quality standards. Evgenia will be very excited to hear that, are what you're looking forward to most working on. And this includes oil and gas wastewater, salinity, like from seawater desalination discharges, and pre-production plastics, or those pesky little nurdles that we're always talking about. Number 3, protecting Texas lands, wildlife, and coasts. And 8 out of 14 people said beach access. And then for sustainable water and climate resilience, we're looking again at water use and reporting for data centers. Excellent. Nice work, y'all.
And
And like I said,
I will say the good news is on 3 of the 4 of those, we already have at least some draft talking points and ideas. So I think we'll be able to get y'all stuff relatively quickly.
oh yeah, absolutely. We've got legislators to call. We've got legislators to email. We've got legislators to meet with. And so to talk to you a little bit about our plan to conduct in-district meetings this July, I'm going to call in Shane Johnson to talk to us about our organizing efforts and how we're going to hold elected officials accountable to what is best for Texans.
Thanks, Jordan and Cyrus. Yeah, let's talk about accountability for our state leaders and how this goes hand in hand with tactics like in-district meetings to make sure that they're actually hearing from us. Next slide. So I want to keep this short and to the point. If we don't show up, the moneyed interests do, right? The giant corporations, the super powerful lobbyists. And if we don't show up, that's all legislators will hear from. And they actually are already hearing from those powerful players with basically all of the money in the world. And so that's why we have to start showing up and, like yesterday, basically, so that we have a real shot at influencing decisions at the legislature. And so offices are specifically soliciting ideas for legislation. And they'll hear from some offices will hear from folks like Cyrus. Every office will hear from giant companies, lobbyists. Then there's committees that are having hearings and getting input, like Cyrus and Jordan talked through. And some of those, like the early one on data centers, the only formal testimony was invited testimony from large corporations or lobbyists. So it's that much more important that we keep showing up. And we also have to be not only their eyes and ears, but their trainers in some ways, because we have to be educating legislators and their staff now, especially while they're less busy. And I'll just say that I've done a dozen legislative trainings in the last 5 years, and every single person who's trained me has said something along the lines of, we volunteers and community members have to be an extension of their staff. They're seeing thousands of bills, having hundreds of meetings. It's not physically possible to keep up with all that information. So we have to add capacity to each office, right? Next slide. And it looked a little funny on mine, we have to meet now and continue working hard to get as many people as possible so that we have enough influence to combat those moneyed interests, like I've been saying. And it has to be a cycle. It has to be continuous, building over time, because not only do we have to keep building more power, but sometimes all of the work and we're doing to show up is what it takes just to maintain the current power we have. And so and this is how we build people power, right? People power versus the powerful moneyed interests, like I've said a couple times. And then we have to keep this cycle going each year or we're going to start losing ground to the opposition. Next slide. And like I've been getting at, we need enough people to be able to make that difference. And a lot of the time, legislators, even those who align with us on a lot of issues, they don't always do the right thing unless the people are there to watch them or the people are there to pressure them. So you always constantly have to be showing up as much as possible to pressure those on opposition, some of whom really are influenceable. Not all of them are completely too far gone to listen at all. And then we also have to keep in line our allies. And sometimes we have to use our influence to convince them that a certain moment is the right time to use their political capital. Next slide. So now what we're going to do is start getting all of us organized for the in-district meetings in July that Cyrus and Jordan talked about earlier. And so we're specifically looking for people who want to help lead locally as team or regional captains. And this is especially folks who've met with legislators before who feel ready to help lead a team or help train or support other folks in this call or who've shown up to previous events to do these meetings or to call their legislators. And don't worry if you've never done this before, that's totally okay. We'll have the training, the talking points, and all the support you need, and this whole team is behind you. So what we're asking right now is for your commitment and willingness to show up at these meetings in July specifically. And so if you're willing to lead a team, I want you to put in the chat, please type captain in the chat. So go ahead, folks, start doing that. And then we'll get to questions in just a second. But if you feel ready to lead a team, a regional team, then go ahead and type captain.
Are these regional teams by legislative district or by area?
Yeah, great question. So, all right, I'm going to invite y'all in to my imagination for a moment. It kind of feels like a combination between like Sesame Street and maybe Saturday Night Live. But I'm imagining for a team captain, it's going to depend, I think, on like the area and the size of the district. So let's say in Austin, there are many districts that are kind of clumped together in a relatively small geographic area, right? Like we could probably get away with specific district captains because it wouldn't make sense for one person to lead uh 6 individual districts that have quite a few volunteers in one, right? But maybe you're here in the more rural part of Bexar County in San Antonio where I live, and the districts, like especially the Senate districts, are like really picked apart in gerrymandering. So like, how can we best support the folks in that area? That could look like a San Antonio captain that's supporting 1 or 2 volunteers that are a little bit more spread out in a larger geographic area. So I think it's going to depend. And so we're asking like, take a leap of faith with us. If you've been in these meetings before, even if you can just offer a neighbor like a kind word, a little bit of encouragement before they go into the meeting, makes you a captain material. Think about Ted Lasso and how little experience he had as a soccer coach before going in and doing what he did best. Like just have some, faith in yourself, and we're looking for folks to step up and step into these roles so that we can support people that might be doing this for the first time or feel a little bit nervous about doing it for the first time. I'm seeing some folks in the chat and I'm so, so excited. That makes me like literally makes my cheeks burn. I'm so happy. Uh, if you're not ready to be a captain, a couple folks have already said I'm in. So let me know, are you in for meeting with your legislator in July? And I'll clarify, in district is like where you live, right? So we're not traveling to Austin unless you live in Austin, then obviously. But if you're here with me in San Antonio, we're going to offices that are local to us. I want to travel and hang out with folks in Dallas who want to meet with their legislators in the Dallas area. Let's do this. Let's go knock on their doors, get that meeting, whether it's with the actual legislator or with their staff, and demand that they listen to us and talk about these priorities that y'all have set. And as Cyrus and Shane have talked about, like get these ideas in early so that come time for the legislative session and come time for bill filing, they're like, what are we going to do on air quality? Wait a second, we know exactly what we're going to do because we've been hearing from the Sierra Club and their volunteers about it.
How do we approach a legislator who does not do any town halls and does not have a district office?
Mm. That's very specific, and we will totally support you in trying to figure that out and uh, find the best
That's
way to give
really
them some face time.
surprising. I
Yeah,
haven't heard of people not having a district office, but I guess you don't have to have a district office.
Well, there's money allocated in by the legislature for that, but this particular representative refuses to open a district office.
Huh.
we
Well,
will definitely follow up.
yeah, maybe you have to come to Austin. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they're in the Dallas, north of Dallas, so.
Wow.
Okay. I'm not seeing your name popping up. Can I ask who's speaking right now?
Oh, Mel.
Okay, perfect. And I did see Bob and then Lisa's hands up. What y'all got for me?
Do we meet with the current member of the House if they are not running for reelection, or for a candidate who is more likely to be the rep in the next legislature?
I'm going to pitch this one over to Cyrus and hear kind of his take on the strategy behind this.
Um, so you're talking about a case like where Tallarico is not going to be the representative, or Gina Hinojosa, who's running for governor, is not going to be the representative. So once the primary is over and we know who the likely representative, should we meet with that person instead? I would say yes, because the representative, they still could be, the existing representative still could be helpful to you in terms of, I'm going to say both, because the existing representative could be helpful in like getting legislative ideas drafted by Ledge Council, which a representative to be cannot do, right? So, but the new representative is actually going to be the person there voting next year, right? Who's going to be involved. So I think it's almost both. But keep in mind if someone's not coming back because they're running for higher office, they probably don't have a lot of time. So yeah. I don't know if that was a
Cool.
good answer.
Thank you,
I
Cyrus.
would prioritize, frankly, the person coming in over the existing person if they're not coming back.
Cool.
So
Lisa, what you got?
my question is, not sure I understand the role of captain, so I didn't respond to your questions because I'm not sure I understand what you're asking. So are you expecting these regional teams to go as a group to meet at these offices, or are you expecting individuals in the team to go and meet with their specific senators or representatives' office? I live in Houston. There are only 6
Yeah.
gazillion districts in Houston, the greater Houston area, okay? A lot of districts. I counted them one time. It's at least 15 just in the greater Houston area, if you don't even count Galveston and stuff that's further out,
Gosh.
okay? So there's a lot of districts here. So are you really thinking this whole group is going to go to all 15 offices, or are you looking for 15 individuals who live in those districts to go engage with their legislator? Because that's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of districts in Houston. That's just Houston.
Totally. Excellent question. Thank you so much for asking. I'll kind of again say like, I think it depends a little bit. So if somebody's willing to step up and into this kind of like a newish role that we're playing with, the idea of a team or a regional captain. So let's say in Houston, you've got these 15 districts, and for 14 of them, you have people that are trained and ready to go and meet with their legislators, and they feel confident and good about it. The one other district, we have one member that's interested in meeting with that legislator, but they don't want to go by themselves. And so perhaps if the regional team captain that's also locally based is able to within their capacity, maybe they could go together, or maybe at all 15, district meetings happen on the same day, and then the regional captain coordinates going to get lunch together afterwards. I think it could really look specific to whatever's needed or wanted in a particular area. And the cool thing of starting something new is we can kind of make it whatever we want. So if you're interested in the idea of like helping other people, maybe doing some light coordination, then I would say try the captainship idea. And me, Shane, Cyrus, Athenia, Dave, we will be figuring this out right along with y'all and making sure that we are supporting the captains and creating a program for the captains that's just as fun and engaging as the captains are trying to make it for everybody else.
Okay, thank you for explaining. Since it is new, I realize, I guess, not everything is sorted and there's going to be
Yeah.
differences in different areas. Because, yeah, those districts are pretty far spread out. So,
Yeah.
it's
I
Houston
mean,
is
I'll say my answer would be whatever someone's willing to do, but it's better to meet with one person than meet with none. Put it that way. Like if all your,
no.
There you go.
I mean,
Well,
so
and frankly, I've already met with my senator on one of these topics because I know we need to get the ball moving long before this meeting. So, okay, so I will think about it, but it depends on what
Yeah.
the captain role would look like in Houston. If it's coordination and stuff like that, I could do that, but I am not running all over town to 15 districts. No way, no how.
Totally. Absolutely. I respect the boundary.
either am I.
That's something like, right. We can follow up for sure and maybe just have like a little chat about what kind of role you're interested in. Like anybody that wants, and this goes to anybody that's thinking about or wants to try this captain idea. It is new, and so we appreciate the patience. Like starting something from scratch is sometimes a little bit messy, but that's how you get the best things out of it. So thank y'all for your patience. Thank you for um, being willing to try something with us, and hopefully I know that it's going to make a big difference. So all of that being said, next month, we're going to talk about how to talk to your legislators. And we're going to do, oh, yeah, before I go in, Carol, what's up?
The question I have is for those in a particular district who are interested in communicating, how do we get each other's emails? Are you going to figure out who they are and or blast out to everybody or whatever?
Yes, I have a master plan where hopefully what will happen next is Shane and I will look at the folks that participated in this call and are interested, and we'll get those names down. And then we'll reach out to the rest of the legislative action team. And, not everyone can always make it to these calls, but 80 people RSVP'd to this call tonight. There's over 120 people on the list for the actual like legislative action team sign up. And so within that, those 200 names, we'll send an email and ask if they are interested in the same things that we're asking y'all about tonight. And then from there, we will create some kind of spreadsheet contact list and make sure that there's the right communication and the right names and information going to everybody. But that's why we're starting now so that we can get these planned for late July and everybody can feel good about all of the steps in between. Perfect. Okay, so in June, we're going to be talking about how to talk to your legislators. And I need some ideas. What are we going to talk about? The first time I went to the Capitol, the things that I was most stressed about, the number one thing I was most stressed about is what do I wear? And just to name it, there's like a, kind of understanding at the Capitol that you wear, business attire, do you want some guidance on like best things to wear to in district meetings? Are you wondering what to say it? Where can I park? Where's the nearest coffee truck? These are the things that I would be asking. If you have any ideas, feel free to again drop them in the chat or follow up with an email to either myself or to Shane or to Cyrus, because we want this to be helpful to y'all. And I don't want to drone on and on about coffee location if that's not going to be what's most helpful to y'all. But this is also going to be a big push for us to bring in new folks to the legislative action team and to really try to build our base so that as we're going into these meetings, maybe we can get some new faces amongst our core group to carry into the legislative session. So I'm asking all of us tonight to, for our action, to please, please, please invite some of your friends, your neighbors, your family members, anyone in Texas that you think might be interested in work like this to come to our June legislative action team meeting. If you take out your phone, you can use the camera to scan this QR code and that'll pull it up for you. And you can share that link in a text. I'm also going to be inviting y'all after this call via email. So you can forward that invitation to 3 people. You can share it out on social media. Y'all have probably seen me do that a bunch. Maybe try it out yourselves. Share it on Facebook and see if we can get anybody new to join us. And then also just talking to your neighbors. You know, if you are experiencing something in your community and you're concerned about it, odds are maybe somebody that lives near you is going to be concerned about it too. And now we have a place where we can talk about it, collaborate on it, build power around it, and do something about it. So let's oh, I see. Great question. What do we say and also provide us with data and sources on each topic to back up? Great question. Excellent. Okay, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Yeah. What are we going to talk about? What are we going to say? What are the sources? What's the data? We will provide all of that. And it's all going to be centered around those policy priorities that y'all voted on just a little bit ago. So we will make sure that that is covered. Great idea, Mary. Bob, got your hand up?
I'd suggest that as we invite people to come to the meeting, we tell them that we need them to join a team to go visit their rep. And they don't have
Yeah,
to know anything to do it, but that it's a good experience and it will help us.
great framing. Love it. All right, y'all. We are 3 minutes ahead of schedule, which is pretty good for us. And I will happily open the floor up for any questions before I get to go sing at least 12 bedtime songs. Any questions?
Got a question.
I see Linda. Yeah.
Will this be like last year? Or last time? I guess it was two
Mm,
2 years.
in what way? Which part?
Uh, well, we just had like uh just the sheet of paper with all
Mm,
the what to say already on it and
yeah,
and
totally. So we'll definitely, yep, do all those talking points. That's like another great
talking.
example of a job for, yeah, for a team captain. Um, or that person could be the one that goes to the library and prints out the talking points, you know, or prints them out at home and brings them to the meeting. But we will make sure to send them to everybody. Again, they'll be focused on those priority issues that we looked at. Um, and then, yeah, I'm
And
hoping to be at some too.
we welcome feedback. You know, if we
Yes,
send draft talking points and you're like, this is either doesn't explain it well enough, or I don't feel, you know, this isn't done in a way that's going to allow me to actually convey this to the person, or it's missing something, you know, let us know, because they're living, breathing documents that can change. They're all somewhere in a Google Doc, so they all can be changed rather easily. It's not a big deal.
totally. Mel?
Yeah, is there any plan, committee hearing that will be dealing with, plug-in solar?
So we definitely mentioned it at the State Affairs hearing. It was in my written testimony, because they were talking about distributed energy resources. But we also know the Senate committee is going to take up a similar charge at some point. We just don't know the date. But it doesn't prevent us from talking about that in the
Sure.
meantime with legislators. So, but there will be a hearing in the Senate. We mentioned it, and also Public Citizen testified at that hearing, and they mentioned as well. I actually never mentioned it orally because I didn't have enough time to mention it. I never got to it, but it was in my written testimony that's something.
Six states have already passed it,
Yes,
and 25 others have it under consideration. And we don't meet until January.
correct. It's on our list of something we want to work on, and there's several other organizations, including Solar United Neighbors and Public
Yep.
Citizen and SIA, that also want to work on it. So between those organizations, we'll definitely be at least making an effort. We'll see what happens.
Awesome. Bob, and then Lisa, you'll have the last question for Bob.
Will each team make asks for the same 2 to 3 topics, or will each team or captain pick their own out of that list?
So I'm imagining that each team will talk about those 4 priorities. However, Cyrus will help us strategize on like how to make specific asks to a specific legislator based on his knowledge and like that specific legislator's, vibe, history, etc. So I think it'll be a combination of like everyone's going to talk about the same things so that we can train on the same things, but then there will be definitely an element of personalization so that we can have the best chance of getting something done on the issue. Lisa, bring us home.
So my final question is, meetings in July are great, but clearly that's not enough. I assume there's going to have to be sustained effort and additional meetings. So I just kind of wanted to say that because we seem so focused right now on trying to have meetings in July that this is not a one and done thing. So you have to continue to
Totally.
meet, you have to send follow-up information, you have to engage. So
There's nothing magical about July.
no, there's nothing magical about July, and trying to schedule with these people is not easy. So you might contact them now and not meet for a month. So it's going to have to continue, especially if you actually find some people who are willing to work on legislation and you want to continue to engage with them. So it will continue. Thus, if we have people who want to get involved at a later date, that's also feasible, right?
Yes, and the way it works, frankly, is you guys are meeting in the district. I'm not necessarily meeting with a legislator, but I go to the Capitol a couple times a week and stop at offices and chat with the staff. So we're going to be hopefully communicating in some way. Maybe I don't know. We'll figure it out. Maybe we have a forum where anytime you meet with somebody, you write it down so we know what each other's doing. So I can then take that information and say, oh, some of your constituents met, with your boss, and here's some of the issues we talked about, and we'd love to get your support on this issue. And, maybe they want to be the leader on it and they want to file legislation. Maybe they just want to know about it and say, if it comes up in my committee, I'll support it. We don't know that yet, right? But yeah, you're right. One meeting in July is not going to change the world. It's developing the relationship and then continuing that relationship. But we wanted to get started with something, right? So, and maybe, you try to schedule a meeting in July and they say, I can't meet in July because I'm going to be on vacation with my family. You can meet with my staff or I can meet with you in August. That's fine too.
Well, I
There's no,
was just
there's no
thinking
wrong
about
answer, right?
how we might be able to get a broader audience. And there are some touch points with some things that you're working on and potentially activities of the Laudato Si movement in Texas for their season of creation advocacy, which is basically the month of September. So it's not July. And the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops will be issuing a social teaching on data centers next month. I think it's due out. So there's a lot of energy in that space around data centers in the Catholic population, and there's a lot of Catholics in Texas. So I'm just trying to look at how do we get people involved in this, even if it's not on every last one of these issues. So the Catholics may all want to, look at the social teaching from the bishops and go talk to their legislators about water conservation and water use by data centers, and they may not give a flip about certain other things that are on your list. So I think we need to be flexible so that we can get as many people engaged as possible when they are able to be engaged on the topics that are of interest to them.
And
Just-
you don't
Love
have
it.
to even identify yourself as a Sierra Club member. If your legislator is one who it would be better to come at that person from I'm a Catholic, you're a Catholic, use that. That's okay. If you want to take the Sierra Club heading off the talking point paper, that's okay too. Like whatever, we're just trying to make sure you build a relationship, right?
Totally.
And so
Okay, well, because I'm just trying to
Awesome.
see how can we get as many people as possible involved. So,
Yeah. I'm gonna follow up. I'd love to just do like a little virtual chit chat lunch sometime. And I think you're in Houston, since you are in Houston.
yes.
But let's talk because it sounds like you have some great ideas on outreach. I am so grateful to everyone that was here tonight and hung out with us and set those priorities. I'll follow up with a bunch of materials, the recording. If you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. But have a wonderful and safe night. Thank y'all so much. Thank you, Shane and Cyrus, for sticking it out with me. And we will see y'all soon. Bye.